covering the world of professional wrestling. This is the Signature Spot with Chris Toplack.
3, 2, 1.
Thank you very much for tuning into the latest episode of The Signature Spot with Chris Toplack. As always, I greatly appreciate your ongoing support, and that support extends worldwide. 2 hours ago, I received a tweet from Jeremy in Sydney, Australia. He tunes in on a weekly basis and has since day one, episode one. So I'm grateful for the fact that you do so, and you continue to do so every single week. In fact, I guarantee an entertaining program today. And if you want to listen to the program, I'm easy to find. YouTube.com/The Signature Spot. Subscribe there. iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play Music, Spreaker, and podcast apps such as Overcast. And to be a part of the conversation, like The Signature Spot on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, and also follow me on Instagram for photos that have nothing to do with professional wrestling. It's food about 95% of the time, and beer, of course, too. I'm a craft beer enthusiast. Chris Jericho recently embarked on a tour for about the past, year and a half, but he recently embarked on a tour across Canada, and specifically, he was in town a couple of days ago. Unfortunately, I could not make the show, but he was in town with Fozzy, and I've been told by many firsthand accounts that he's not only an incredible showman, but the band sounded outstanding. To quote a friend, well worth the price of admission and highly recommend for any fan of rock music that you check out Fozzy. So this is somebody, by the way, who I consider a good buddy who has seen many of the best rock bands probably over the past 5 to 10 years. Travels across North America to check them out. So when he's putting over Fozzy, it means a lot. On this edition of the program, recapping the worst edition of Raw in 2018. I hate the fact that I need to speak about it again. It was that awful. It's still a bad taste in my mouth. NXT UK updates. CM Punk on fielding a wrestling offer. And I'm joined by Chris Ross of The Reaction Room to discuss his firsthand experience on the Jericho Cruise. So listen in, man.
Your weekly recap.
Following the most recent episode of Raw, I feel as though I'm experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay, I'm being a little dramatic, but nevertheless, it was horrid. Not only, undoubtedly, the worst edition of Raw of 2018, but many fans and critics are deeming this one of the worst episodes in the history of Raw. So if you missed it, here's Raw in a nutshell. Dean Ambrose was so disgusted with the city of Milwaukee and all of the fans that he decided to pull down his pants on live television and receive his flu shot. It was to his hip, but it was one of the most awkward moments I've ever seen, and in my opinion, killed all momentum with his character. I guess his new gimmick is a germaphobe. Nia Jax cut a very forgettable promo. Ronda Rousey came out, and then she claimed that Nia's punch to Becky changed the history of the world. I hear that statement, I think World War II or some very traumatic events. But I don't necessarily associate that impactful line with Nia Jax punching Becky Lynch in the face. Oh, it goes much further. Drake Maverick peed on Bobby Roode's robe. So yes, the urine and pee jokes continue, and it's all associated with Drake Maverick. Bayley and Sasha were given an open forum to answer questions from the audience. There was an obvious plant, and it was just an incredibly awkward segment. No Way Jose returned to zero reaction. You could have heard a pin drop. In fact, I think I did. And then death, taxes, and Finn Balor versus Baron Corbin. These things are guaranteed in life. That's like the 900th time that they've squared off on Raw. Hands down, the worst episode of Monday Night Raw in 2018. In fact, I would have rather received a root canal from a dentist with poor depth perception than watch this again. It would be a form of torture. Moving over to SmackDown, yeah, the bar was raised pretty low, so they clearly just stepped over it, and it was actually quite a solid episode. Some of the highlights included Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair opening SmackDown, and it was the right move. Becky Lynch continues to receive a rock star reaction from the live audience. AJ Styles returned to television for the first time since losing his championship to Daniel Bryan, and he cut a very passionate promo where he elevated SmackDown over Raw, compared Bryan to Lesnar, and stressed the importance of the WWE Championship. That's how you get the job done, and that's how you sell a pay-per-view. Jeff Hardy had a 20th anniversary celebration thrown on his behalf. Can't believe it's been 20 years already. And despite the fact that this was a scripted segment, he seemed genuinely moved by the gesture. In fact, when the segment was over with, he was clapping basically every fan's hand at ringside and up the entrance ramp. I loved Samoa Joe ruining the party, insinuating he could not even celebrate, he being Jeff Hardy, because he couldn't even pop a bottle of champagne. By winning the Women's Battle Royal, Asuka was added to the Becky Lynch and Charlotte match at TLC. It is now officially a triple threat. Say what you will about how Asuka has been booked, but the crowd still erupted when she eliminated Sonya Deville. History was made on NXT UK. Rhea Ripley defeated Toni Storm to become the first ever NXT UK Women's Champion. Many predicted that this would be Toni Storm's moment in the sun, but Rhea Ripley ripped the moment away. It's very likely, stay tuned, that they're going to face off at NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool. Over to NXT, we had a clash between two big men with very different styles, Lars Sullivan versus Keith Lee. Sullivan will be soon on the main roster while Keith Lee is just establishing himself in NXT. And it's nice to see him finally receive the spotlight. Though it was a losing effort, he's going to have a lot of time to shine in NXT. We also had Mia Yim, a veteran, versus Vanessa Bourne, who's still progressing, so Yim did carry her through. And EC3 returned to television.
The latest industry news and rumors.
On Tuesday, WWE.com released a very brief update on the monster among men. Simply put, Braun Strowman underwent successful surgery in Birmingham, Alabama. Straight to the point. The procedure was done to remove bone spurs from his elbow. NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool is officially set for January the 12th on the WWE Network. This all transpired last weekend as the WWE held their NXT UK TV tapings in Liverpool, and they've put together a tremendous card, including for the WWE UK Championship, it's Pete Dunne taking on Joe Coffey. For the WWE UK Tag Team Championship, it's Mustache Mountain versus Zach Gibson and JD Drake. For the WWE UK Women's Championship, a rematch, Rhea Ripley versus Toni Storm. In a no DQ match, Dave Mustache versus Eddie Dennis, and Jordan Delvin versus Travis Banks. According to Triple H, the event sold out in less than 3 hours. Very impressive. It's being reported that indie star Walter has signed a contract with the WWE and will be reporting to the NXT UK brand. So who is Walter? He's an Austrian-born wrestler who spent the past couple of years wrestling in such independent promotions as Evolve, PWG, and Defiant Wrestling. At 6'4", 300-plus pounds, you can imagine he will fit in well under the WWE banner. Impact Wrestling could potentially have a new home. They're currently on Pop TV, but their deal expires on December the 31st, and there are several rumored networks that are interested in potentially bringing them on, including True TV, Sci-Fi, and WGN America. CM Punk is in the news again. He was recently interviewed by MMAfighting.com and specifically asked if he would listen to an offer to return to wrestling. Here's the full response. I would always listen. I would listen to them. I like the Young Bucks. I text with Matt on and off, but business is business. I know Cody was out there in the media saying that an offer was made for the All-In event on September 1st. An offer was not made. Calling me up or texting me saying, hey, if you want to come to the show and do something, we would love that is not an offer. That's not an offer. He further went on to state, there's other things. There's a couple more loose ends that I'm still trying to tie up to fully absolve me from the world of pro wrestling. I feel like I've been attached to it since the day that I left, and that's mostly because of the Fugazi lawyers and such. But we're wrapping all that up, and I'll come to an end. Once I'm truly free, we can explore the world and just float and hang out. In case you missed it, Jake Roberts recently appeared on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. It was a very honest and incredibly entertaining interview. Even if you don't watch the entire episode, go out of your way to hear Jake speak about Andre the Giant, Macho Man, and his experience with the Cobra. Roberts is arguably the greatest storyteller in the business and, in my opinion, the greatest promo in the history of the business. My featured guest this week is Chris Ross. He's a good friend of mine and co-host of The Reaction Room. Find him at thereactionroom.com, subscribe on YouTube, and become a Patreon. That's patreon.com/The Reaction Room. He's going to share his firsthand experience on Chris Jericho's Rock and Wrestling Rager at Sea.
And now, our featured guest.
I am finally joined by the man himself. His name is Chris Ross from The Reaction Room podcast. My friend, thank you for joining me. I noticed you're going to pop one. I'm going to actually pop one as well, too.
There we go. That's the sound.
In unison.
That's the sound of paradise there, my friend.
Oh, it is. I have a can. I told you. It's cream ale. It's refreshing. It's crisp, and it has a dry finish. It is Anderson Craft Ales Cream Ale.
It sounds lovely. I have a Heineken here in my hands.
Yeah, but you are also on the right side of the world to drink that because it tastes drastically different over here in North America.
Before I do any sort of conversation, because I'm Scottish, I have to also do this. Open some whiskey.
Yes.
Yummy. Cheers to you, my Canadian friend.
I need to ask you, have you actually tried that Proper 12? Is that the name of it by Conor McGregor? Have you tried that yet?
I have not. I've seen some reviews. It's supposed to be quite bad, but I might actually buy some just for you so I can give you a review.
Oh, geez. Yeah, just because we love Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
I'll do his little laugh. So you were on the Chris Jericho Rock and Ranger Cruise. The thing I love about you is the fact that you disappeared from the face of the earth when you were on this cruise. Nothing on social media, no mention you were going, just complete silence, which led many to speculate that that's where you were. And indeed you were.
Yes, brother, you have to get the name correct. It's the Chris Jericho's Rock and Wrestling Rager.
Oh, there you go.
Sea.
Wow.
Or
how about the Cruise of Jericho, right?
Yeah, the Jericho Cruise. Before I begin talking about anything, I would just like to thank everyone that got me there. I booked this 1 week, about 10 days before it was going to sail away, man. And I got there through basically live donations on live streams on YouTube.
Wow, amazing.
Some fans that got me there on our Patreon as well. So thank you very much to everyone that got me there. But I went on the Jericho Cruise, and I would have to recommend it to every single person that's listening to this right now. It was fantastic, Mr. Top Luck.
Wow. So let's start from the very beginning. And I actually have heard that he's going to do this again because it was such a success. But let's start from the very beginning. So you get there, and I believe it left from Miami, right?
Yeah, it left from Miami. I got to Miami 3 days early because I did not...
In typical Chris Ross fashion, of course, right?
Yeah, obviously I had to party in Miami. I went myself, by the way. I went all the way 4,500 miles myself. Stayed in Miami for 3 nights. The first night I got very, very drunk indeed and had a good time. And then I just stayed in a hotel for 2 days. I did not want to miss the cruise of Jericho. I did not want it to... I had images of it sailing away. Me passed out in a ditch in Miami somewhere.
Oh my God, we have room for one more. Where's this Chris Ross guy? Oh, he's presumably dead.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, I got a taxi to the harbour. It was on a Saturday from Miami, and it was just a sight to behold. Pulling up in a taxi, seeing this massive ship. It was called the Norwegian Jade, and it was just this big thing.
Sounds like a porn star.
Never been on a cruise before in my life. It sounds like a porn star.
Welcome to the Norwegian Jade. You're like, am I on the right ship? Is this the Hooters ship? Is this the Jericho ship? Which one?
Yeah, it was fantastic. Have you ever been on a cruise ship before?
Never. I feel like it's too confined for me. That's why.
Well, I thought that would happen with myself, but I got a room with a little balcony. The room was a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. Got on the ship, made it through customs, and they would not let us in our cabins for a while. So I had to make a very important decision, which had to be made on the ship, and that was I or was I not going to order the ultimate beverage package?
Ooh.
Which is unlimited alcohol for the whole
God.
time that you're there. So what do you think I did, Mr. Toplack?
Knowing you the way that I do, you ordered it, right?
I did not, actually.
Wow.
No, of course I did. Yes. I splashed some cash.
What was
and
included in it? Like, was it actually the good quality beer, or was it kind of just cheap beer?
Everything. It was quality. Everything. Whiskey, vodka, beer, wine, cocktails. They actually had specific cocktails on the ship. I wish I could remember. Actually, I do remember specific cocktails. One was the Walls of Jericho.
Nice.
Which was just straight vodka with some ice. And I got handed, someone got me a Stupid Idiot, which was the strongest cocktail. I had a few of them. But yeah, I'd recommend if he does this again, he'll have an ultimate beverage package. It's worth, if you're a drinker like me, it's definitely worth it. I must have saved a fortune because I was just getting drinks all the time. And of course, I was by myself, so I was actually handing them out to people left, right, and centre, including some wrestlers who did not have the ultimate beverage package, which I was very surprised. Chris Jericho apparently is a bit of a Scrooge when it comes to booze.
Interesting. So, first of all, if you were by yourself on this and I had known this, I would have possibly tried to make my way there. I'm serious too. I may have tried to make it there with you.
Man, that should have happened. Now I'm just depressed. I was
You're like, it was an 8 out of 10. It's dropped to a 4 out of 10 now. Suddenly, so
it was
you talk.
It could have been an 11. Turn it up to 11 with Chris Toplack on board.
Spinal Tap. So you talked about handing out drinks to different wrestlers, and of course, I'd be remiss if I did not ask you who you actually ended up not only meeting but hanging out with in terms of, you know, the wrestling royalty. There were a lot of notable wrestlers on the ship.
Yes, the man himself, Chris Jericho, who I've gained a lot more respect for Y2J because how he managed to survive his schedule on that ship is beyond belief. He was doing live podcasts. His band Fozzy were playing. They'd done 3 sets over the course of a few days. And every time I saw him at nighttime, Chris Jericho can handle his drink. I thought I was a drunk. My God, Chris Jericho can drink. So yes, I found myself in a bar with Jack Slade, who is Chris Jericho's personal assistant.
Weighs 95 pounds.
Yes, and he's actually training to be a wrestler. He starts in January to become training a wrestler. He's training in London. But I said, you know what, Jack, I will be your personal assistant right now. What would you like to drink? And he wanted a gin. So he's a gin guy. If anyone out there wants to buy Jack Slade a drink, gin. So I went to the bar, got some gin. Shane Helms comes up beside me, the Hurricane,
yes,
who is one of my new favourite people. He wants Fireball. So this guy him and his Shane Helms and his beautiful wife drink Fireball, just straight Fireball,
Jeez.
Fireball whiskey. And I think they were washing it down with some Mountain Dew. So this is a fascinating interview, Chris, because you're getting all the details of people's drinks.
Shane Helms, not crab juice, but Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew, but Fireball. So I ended up in a room with Jack Slade, Shane Helms and his wife, SCU, and the man himself, Chris Jericho.
Unbelievable.
So I bought a round, and I was standing. You can see me right now. I was standing in between Chris Jericho to my left. To the right is Chris Jericho's dad, Ted Irvin, and
former hockey player. And in front of him is Shane Helms and then SCU. I bought a round and managed to get loads of. I think I must have got 16 drinks, and we all had a shot of Fireball, and it was surreal. In fact, the more I think about this cruise, it's like it never happened. It's like some bizarre dream. Surreal.
Because it was so surreal. Shane Helms is one of the nicest guys ever. I was drinking with him for quite a while. And one of my favourite guys to drink with, I spent hours drinking with this man, Sami Callihan.
Ah, yes, the villain himself right there. The man who was reinventing Impact Wrestling.
Dude, that guy, is amazing. I love him so much. He's so cool. So that's basically my trip, was drinking non-stop and with the occasional drinking with wrestlers as well. So there you go.
Wow. So there were a lot of bands that were there. Actually, one that was notable was Corey Taylor there.
Oh, yes.
Because I'm a huge Stone Sour fan, and I actually really respect Slipknot as well. So the fact he was there almost put me over the edge.
I've got goosebumps. You just said Corey Taylor. Legit goosebumps all over my arm right now. He played an acoustic set for 2 hours on the stage, and that guy is something else. You might know I'm a bit of a singer, and this guy, what he can do with his voice is unbelievable. I have so much more respect for this guy as well. But he done a set, a lot of Stone Sour, some Slipknot, but mostly covers as well.
Did he play from an acoustic standpoint? If he did, I might have to leave the room. I might just shut this interview down. Did he play Tired as an acoustic set?
I don't.
Okay.
Do you know why I
feel
don't
better.
know? Because I can't remember, because I was very drunk. But I remember he did. I've actually filmed a lot of his set, or at least me reacting and singing along. He done a lot of like Pink Floyd and stuff. It was surprising.
That's pretty cool.
And he finished with Through Glass, which is one of my favorite songs.
Of course, great album, by the way.
Yes.
Come whatever may.
Corey Taylor was there. He actually sang with Fozzy.
Wow.
The Fozzy on the second night, I think it was the second night, done a whole set full of covers, which was absolutely fantastic. And the man Corey Taylor joined Jericho on stage for a few tunes. I think I can't remember. I think he sang a Kinks song.
You really got me?
Yes, it was. You really got me. Wow, it's all coming back to me now. See, this is like therapy. It's great.
I feel like you're somebody who suffered like a really bad concussion, and I'm your doctor. And it's like, just tell me about the accident. And you're like, there's a white Cadillac. Yes. And then he was wearing a red hat. I'm like, see, we're uncovering some crucial evidence here.
Oh.
Yes, another beer.
What can you remember is the question here. But yeah, Corey Taylor was absolutely amazing, and I believe he's going with a girl from the Cherry Bombs, who were also on stage. It's this group of girls that dance to rock music, and I think he's with the lead lady.
Interesting.
They were fantastic as well. But yeah, Fozzy. Have you ever seen Fozzy?
Oddly enough, you might be disappointed in this. They were in town on Tuesday, and I did not make the show.
Wow. On Tuesday?
Yeah.
That's crazy. I had never seen Fozzy before in my life. I saw them 3 times now on the same trip. And
same set? Different set?
Different sets, but that's a fun band. If you want a fun show, Chris Jericho is an absolute gem of a front man. I would recommend Fozzy.
Very charismatic. I mean, but also on the cruise, you had Jim Ross, Jerry Lawler. You had, now known as the Elite, stacked.
Yes. Well, interestingly enough, that's where the Chris Jericho did his Talk is Jericho Live podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And 4 of them, the first one was Jerry the King Lawler and Jim Ross. In fact, that was the second, I think. The first one was Remembering Eddie Guerrero with Rey Mysterio and Conan as guests.
Amazing.
Oh man, I was in tears by the end of that. Rey Mysterio, some accounts of some Eddie Guerrero stories was fantastic. He done Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Jerry the King Lawler and Jim Ross, which was fantastic. But the Bullet Club was the one where they officially announced. I was on that ship, so I was there for that announcement. It was pretty radical seeing them talking about this. You know, we are now known as the Elite.
Yeah, they're making history, and now they can actually make some merchandise money as well.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly it. I have to say, the theatre, this cruise ship. I think there was probably around 2,500 people on this thing.
Yeah, that's where they had the ring as well, right?
Yes, well, they moved it around, so he had a ring set up in an actual theatre, which was fantastic. I think it was called funnily enough, I think it was called the Stardust Theatre. And there was a Bliss Lounge as well,
nice.
Which, that's where Colt Cabana done his Art of Wrestling podcast.
The originator, by the way.
Yes, the originator, and that's a must listen show. I don't know if that's actually been released yet. They had the Briscoes on, and a few other people. It was absolutely fantastic.
Wow. And then, of course, Brandy was on the ship. You had Jay Lethal. You had a lot of very prominent ROH wrestlers, including one of my all-time favorites, Christopher Daniels. Mr. Independent Wrestling right there.
Dude, I've got a story for you. Christopher Daniels, interesting. I was waiting to get on the ship. You had to go at a certain time. Christopher Daniels, I was just sort of standing, minding my own business, and SCU, the three of them come walking up, and Christopher Daniels comes up, and he's like, "Where do we go?" Like, I think he thought that I worked on the ship or something. And I'm like, I don't know, dude. I'm like marking out, it's Christopher Daniels. But this guy, Christopher Daniels, loves the casino. Every time I saw him, he was playing cards. I pulled up a seat next to Christopher Daniels, and I played cards for about 40 minutes until I lost all my money and gave it to him. So that was surreal again. I'm having flashbacks. Thank you for that, because I completely forgot that story. It was about 1 a.m. I'm sitting next to Christopher Daniels, playing cards and drinking alcohol with my unlimited beverage package. Wow. It was, what a trip. What a trip.
No kidding. You're sitting next to arguably, and in my opinion, the greatest independent wrestler of all time.
Yeah. It blows my mind that this even happened. He's such a nice guy.
Yeah.
Such a nice guy.
Now, you saw some matches on this as well, too, right?
I saw most of the matches from what I can remember. And one of the most insane matches, in fact, the most insane match I have ever witnessed in front of my eyes. If Jim Cornette was there, he would have had a fit, because on the last night, I believe it was the Halloween night, the members, it came across, it was Impact versus ROH. I think that's what it was 5-on-5.
Yes, it was, yeah.
Yes, something along those lines, or the club or something. Anyway, it was like Impact all came out, and then over SoCal Val, who I also had a drink with, lovely girl, SoCal Val's like, and representing the Mushroom Kingdom. I was like, what? And then you had, Cody Rhodes coming out dressed as Bowser. Yeah, exactly. You had the Young Bucks, Mario and Luigi. Hangman Page was Yoshi. Marty Scurll was, of course, the villain. Wario.
It's me, Wario.
It's a me. But it was fantastic. And Kenny Omega was Toad. Yes, little Toadstool.
Wow. If I were actually there, I would have been up for playing Waluigi, because I'm nice and long. That's who I could be. Waluigi. Don't trust that guy.
Honestly, that was such a fantastic experience. I don't know if that's been... They were filming it. I think they were... I haven't seen it anywhere.
Fight TV. Fight.tv, they actually aired it on there. Now it's a bit of like a pay-per-view. You might have to pay to order it.
No, I've watched it back. That's not on there.
No. Weird.
No. And my favourite match was not on there either, which was a no rules, no DQ deck fight between the villain Marty Scurll and Sami Callihan.
Ooh.
Which went all over the ship and ended up, spoiler alert, someone getting thrown in the pool.
Oh.
And it was fantastic.
Could I ask you about this match? This is somebody that I've been a fan of since about 2005. Cody Rhodes specifically chose him as an opponent, and that was Delirious, a man whose fingerprints are all over Ring of Honor at the moment. How was that match?
That was good. I am very new to Delirious. Completely new to Delirious. So I was like, what is this? What am I watching?
Fun character, right?
Fantastic. It was hilarious, but interestingly, it was very original. He's doing the blah, 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 thing. I'm like, what is this? It was a good match.
And technically, he's very sound too, which is funny because it's very deceptive. Some people love the gimmick; they hate it. It's a little bit polarizing, but technically, he's fantastic.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And what's the guy's name? Is it Matt Taven?
I believe so. Yeah, something along those lines. Yeah.
Matt Taven. I'm not entirely.
Yeah, Matt Taven. He's the guy that has like the cane, flashy jacket, right?
Matt Taven is the guy that I had no idea who he really was, but he came out and he was whispering to SoCal Val, like, and then she would go on the microphone and be like, Matt Taven would like to announce, that you are all losers for being on this cruise ship. So I was like, boo. My favorite part, there was like these kids, like, because it was there were families on the cruise as well,
which is hilarious. I mean, kudos to the mom and the dads out there that actually brought their kids along.
And there's some drunk Scotsman running about screaming obscenities into his camera phone. So there's some kids in the pool and stuff, and it was like, Matt Taven would like to announce that he has pissed in the pool. The kids just like jumped out of the pool. That was absolutely fantastic.
Good way to clear a room. Special guests were there too. You had DDP, Mick Foley, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Rey Mysterio, Raven, Pat Patterson. One of the biggest questions is, did you have an opportunity to sing with Pat Patterson? I need to know.
I did not.
Oh.
I'll tell you what did happen.
Oh.
I was at the bar with Pat Patterson. Had a good
naturally
chat.
So.
Had a good chat with the man. So he was at the back of the room. I said, I'm going to sing a song for you. Because I didn't want him to do you want to sing with me? Because I was just completely drunk at this point. So I sang My Girl by The Temptations on the karaoke and changed the words to My Pat. And it went down a treat. And then the next day, speaking of treats, this might have been the most special thing that happened on the cruise. It was after Keeping It 100 podcast, which was fantastic episode. And that finished, so it was like me and one other guy in the room. Shout out to Mike Durband, one other guy in the room, and he was wanting to do a little interview. So I sat down, done an interview, and then halfway through, Pat Patterson walks in, and we're like, oh my God. And he's the guy that was with him was like, oh, can you be quiet for a bit? Pat Patterson is about to sound check.
Wow.
So I grabbed my camera, went to the back of the room. Pat Patterson was sound checking My Way.
Unbelievable.
And I eased myself forward, filming this entire experience. And it's just me dancing by myself, listening to Pat Patterson sound check. And at the end, just be like, fantastic, Pat. And he's like, yeah. So that was a special moment. He sang. I'd like to think Pat Patterson sang that song for me because I sang to him the night before.
A majestic moment.
Again, this just sounds like a dream, doesn't it?
It does.
What happened? How is this a thing? Pat Patterson, the creator of my favourite event, the Royal Rumble, was singing My Way in an empty room to me on a cruise ship.
And I'm so glad that he sang that song too, because could you imagine if he just went over to the microphone and all of a sudden, I'm addicted to you because you know that you're toxic. You're like, what? No, this was my moment, and you're singing Britney Spears over here.
To be fair, I would quite like to see that tonight. Yeah,
okay. I'd pay for the price of admission too.
Yeah, Pat Patterson was my goal to meet and speak to, and I did, and it was fantastic. Everything. The key word here. I'm trying to be a good boy and be PG, because as anyone that knows me knows, this is the most I've ever censored myself in my life.
I'm proud of you.
Everything is an F word, and it's fantastic on this show.
Yeah, it sounds like definitely a surreal experience that you were there for. It was, 4 days, right?
It was 4 nights, and we got booted off the cruise ship nice and early.
In the middle of the ocean.
In the middle.
Fend for yourselves, kids.
One of the funniest things that happened, Corey Taylor, we're in the middle. Oh, actually, just let me set this scene quickly. I was very excited. I was like, I hope, what's going to happen? Right, you get on the ship, you get to the cabin, then there's a sail away toast at like 3 or 4 p.m. Sail away toast. So we're all there on the deck. The stage is in front of us. Sail away toast. JR, Jim Ross, and the King come out and do the sail away toast, and they've all handed out free vodka shots to everyone. Huh. So I'm like, yes. And it was Jerry and the JR done this toast. We'd done the toast, swallowed it down. Boom. Next thing happens. Fozzy take to the stage, and they played Judas, and which is Jericho's New Japan entrance music, and probably one of their best songs in a long time. Very catchy. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about this. So the ship is stationary at the port. They start playing Fozzy. that's when it starts to move, and it's just like, sail away, man. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, it was so good.
Well,
Honestly, I wish, like, everyone, if you can get to experience this cruise, I would recommend it 100%. And I'd have to say, based on the feedback, I think they're going to, like in Jaws, I think they're going to need a bigger boat.
Wow. Hopefully next year. That's what Chris Jericho was alluding to. And if it does happen and you plan on going, save some room for this guy. How about that?
I will save some room for you. The 2 Chrissies will take to the seas. Actually, the 3 Chrissies will take to the seas. Chris Jericho, Chris Black, and Chris Ross.
Oh, that will be a hell of a time. So you can catch Chris Ross on thereactionroom.com. You can also follow him on Twitter at dead_end_old, and also on patreon.com. You can fund his next trip.
Yes,
to the Chris Jericho
fundamentally.
Cruise, right? And that is the Reaction Room on there. Brother, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. It's a pleasure to talk to you. We'll catch up again soon.
Thank you very much, you sexy man.
You're listening to The Signature Spot with Chris Black.
If that experience did not sell you on the next Jericho Cruise, I'm not sure what will. But one thing is for sure, if or when it happens again, I would like to attend and hope you join me too. I've been involved in media in some way, shape, or form for well over 10 years, and Chris Ross is one of the most entertaining personalities in the game today. Check him out, thereactionroom.com, for more details. And thank you for supporting this show. Every single Thursday, you can expect a new episode. That is new, original content, never recycled, always fresh like a New York deli. And until next week, happy trails to you. Until we meet again.
This concludes another episode of The Signature Spot with Chris Black. For new episodes, subscribe on YouTube, Stitcher, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, or iTunes. And don't forget to follow The Signature Spot on Facebook for exclusive clips, polls, and opinions.